I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Aiken, do you want to read your disclaimer?
Yes. The material for each item on the agenda is available online at www.myclearwater.com. The City of Clearwater is using the April 16, 2020 virtual city council. Skype is a telecommunications application for video chat and voice calls across mobile devices, desktops, tablets, over the internet. In order to ensure that the public has the ability to view the meeting, the city's communication department will broadcast the meeting through all the usual channels and avenues that are provided when the city council meeting is held in the council chambers of the neighborhood. The meeting can be viewed live on CB Spectrum Channel 638, Frontier Channel 30, and WOW Channel 15 through the city's Facebook page, facebook.com/City of Clearwater, or on the city's YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/City of Clearwater. The broadcast will also have closed captioning. Additionally, the city has not selected a virtual platform that requires the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to watch this meeting. Citizens wishing to provide comments on an agenda item are encouraged to do so in advance through written comment. The city has established the following 4 options to ensure public comment for the virtual meeting. E-comments via Granicus. E-comments is integrated with the published meeting agenda. Individuals may view the agenda item details and indicate their position on the item. You will be prompted to set up a user profile to allow you to comment, which will become part of the official record. The e-comment period is open from the time the agenda is published. Comments received during the meeting will become part of the official record if posted prior to the closing of public comment. Email. Individuals may submit written comments or videos to clearwatercouncil@myclearwater.com. All comments received by 5 p.m. the day before the meeting, April 15th, will become part of the official record. Skype. I'm not sure how we do it. We're not doing Skype. We are not doing Skype. Additionally, like any other council meeting, the public may provide public comment at the main library council chambers, 100 North Osceola Avenue. When addressing City Council, the member of the public must first state his or her name, the address is provided on the slip that you are submitting to speak, and what item will be spoken about. Due to COVID-19, all speakers desiring to appear in person will be subject to all applicable emergency measures in place to prevent COVID-19. Anyone wishing to appeal any decision made by the City Council or any matter considered at this meeting may need a verbatim record of the item. The video of this meeting may be viewed online at www.myclearwater.com. Please silence all cell phones and other noise-making devices. Any person with a disability requiring assistance, auxiliary aids, and services for this meeting will be notified the clerk. Please note City Council members have generally been briefed by City staff and City attorney on items on the agenda today. Individuals, Council. The city has published an agenda as well as included in the notice to the public pursuant to our city code and items and topics that will be discussed at the virtual City Council meeting. Additionally, the public has been given an opportunity to provide public comment during the meeting and within reasonable proximity and time before the meeting via public comment, email, and video. Moreover, Section 286 4:3C, Florida statute specifically authorizes the city to prescribe procedures and forms for an individual to use in order to inform the board or commission of the desire to be heard, to indicate his or her support, opposition, or neutrality on the position. The city, through its 3 public comment options, has provided 3 different procedures and forms to indicate, among other things, his or her support, opposition, and neutrality on the items and topics to be discussed at the virtual city council. The city provided information on how to submit its comments and amendments to the public on a dedicated webpage and via social media channels. Council members, are you comfortable with all notice provisions set forth and these rules of procedure we have established for this virtual meeting?
You're blowing us out, man.
You were muted for most of it.
I was?
You aren't now. Maybe she was being picked up by my mic. Are you finished?
I'm done and I'm waiting for them to say they're okay.
Councilmember
Pam, this is Micah. I did hear you.
Yeah, I'm okay. I think I know what she said, so I think I'm okay.
Councilmember Albritton.
Yes, yes, I'm okay.
Councilmember Beckman.
I don't understand what Pam read. Can you just tell me what City Attorney Aiken read? What was it about? Is it in our?
It was the
Because
regulations about doing a Skype meeting and the regulations by the state statute.
I'm fine with what she read.
Councilmember Bunker.
Yes, well, I could barely hear it myself, but I'm fine with the procedures. There you go.
That's a mic, Pam. All right. We have a proclamation for National Library Week. I could have Jennifer Obermeyer, our library director, come forward. Good evening. Whereas today's libraries are less about what they have on the shelves and more about what they can do with and for their communities. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions where people of all ages, interests, and backgrounds can come together and learn alongside one another. And whereas libraries offer members of the community a welcoming space and opportunities to explore new passions through technology, programs, and services, and whereas libraries which promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all are cornerstones of democracy, and whereas libraries are a resource for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status, by offering services and educational programming that transform lives and strengthen communities. Now I therefore, Frank B. Hibbard, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2020 to be National Library Week in Clearwater, and I encourage all residents to visit the library, a place where we can all belong, discover who we are. It's Obermeyer.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and city management for your continued support of our wonderful library system. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to serve the public in the past couple of weeks, and we really miss them. And we look forward to reopening in a safe manner and providing our full service to our wonderful library patrons in Clearwater. So thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
We look forward to when you're open again.
Same here. Thank you.
Want this? Now, if I could have Sheridan Boyle come forward, our sustainability coordinator. And this is for International Compost Awareness Week. Whereas the Composting Council Research and Education Foundation has declared the first week of May to be the annual International Composting Awareness Week in order to showcase compost production and demonstrate compost use. And whereas composting transforms materials such as yard trimmings, vegetable cuttings, food scraps, and shredded paper into beneficial product known as compost. And whereas composting is an effective form of waste reduction, reuse, and recycling that returns organic resources to the soil, which assist in conserving water during extreme drought or flooding conditions, reducing water consumption and non-point pollution, and a proven method of decreasing the dependence on chemical fertilizers and decreasing erosion. And whereas composting assists the City of Clearwater's Greenpin plan in reducing greenhouse gas emissions by significantly reducing methane emissions while enabling carbon to sequester back into the ground. Now, therefore, I, Frank B. Hibbard, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through the 9th, 2020 to be International Compost Awareness Week in Clearwater. Spoil.
I just wanted to mention, I think composting is frequently overlooked for a number of reasons, but it has so many benefits mentioned in that proclamation. There's a wonderful regional resource called the Pinellas Community Compost Alliance that is available. They have a website and a Facebook group, and they will be providing virtual workshops and information over the next month in celebration of the week. So thank you.
Well, and with us not picking up yard refuse, it's a good time to compost.
Can I say something about that?
You can say it during Citizens to be Heard.
Oh, you know, if it would go right.
Sure. All right, at this time, I would ask that citizens that would like to speak to any items that are not on the agenda come forward. If you have not filled out a card, please do so. Okay. I would ask if there are any amendments to the minutes.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. All right, now we'll let citizens be heard. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to any item that's not on the agenda, please come forward. We ask you to fill out a comment card and to state your name.
Hi, my name's Lisa Lanza. I just want to say since about 1992, I've had a compost in my yard, and it really works fantastic. All of my kitchen scraps, vegetable items, eggshells have gone in there, and haven't put any of my kitchen scraps in the trash bin since that time. And I just recycle the soil in my yard. It's very simple. All my shredded paper goes in there. And anyway, anybody who wants to contact me, they can find me on Facebook, Lisa Lanza, and I'll give them a tour of my little yard and garden. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lanza. Anyone else for citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. We did have a comment, council, on item 7.1, so I would ask for approval of items 7.2 through 7.13 if there is no one in the audience to remove an item from consent. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 7.2 through 7.13.
Second.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Call, do you want to read the comment from the public on item 7.1?
Yes. This comment was submitted by Deb Larkin. I live at 1337 Stewart Boulevard, and I'm a retired field engineer in road construction. I was able to view the work session with the harm proposal was discussed. I have a few comments. I don't understand why an RFP was not issued as required by the city. I personally witnessed 2 construction companies walking and measuring the Harn job, but only received this proposal. Also, Tara Kivett explained the piggybacking of the Largo contract. The Largo project is just about 22% of the Harn job. Why is the unit pricing the same? Full depth reclamation for Largo was 1,760 square yard compared to the 8,000 square yard on the Harn job. Replaced compact and grade material was the same yardage. The emulsion used by Largo was 5,260 gallons as to 24,000 gallons for the Harn job. When looking at the proposal, the Harn job has the same unit pricing. It stands to reason that when a company does a proposal, the Harn job has the same unit pricing.
Can't hear.
It stands to reason that my mic is on. Is that better? It stands to reason that when a company does more work, more than 78%, the unit pricing goes down. It does not remain the same. Also, Largo contract did not have a 10% contingency. Harn Boulevard 10% contingency is worth over $47,000. Mayor Hibbard, I agree when you said during these unusual circumstances, we could probably negotiate pricing. I believe with this job, we could save over $100,000 by negotiating the unit pricing and waiving the contingency. Another thought, I don't know the timeline for construction for the apartments off Harn. However, might it be prudent to wait until the construction of the apartments was completed so that the apartment construction won't tear up our new asphalt? I do feel the FDR is a viable solution. I just don't feel we have a competitive contract for our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Call. Back in the control room, Mr. Horn and Ms. Aiken are not hearing this call. Just so you're aware. They're hearing her physically, but not through the AirPods.
I did not hear Miss Call either.
And I didn't hear.
Councilmember Hamilton, did you hear her?
I did hear.
Councilmember Albritton?
No, silent.
Councilmember Bunker?
Yes, it came through here fine.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking, or I'm wondering if when we mute some of us when we're muting our mic, it's actually muting some of the other conversation. Because I have neglected to mute my mic and I'm hearing everything with no problem.
I'm not muting my mic, but I didn't hear Rosemary, nor did I hear City Attorney Ms. Aiken.
That shoots my theory.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
and I have my mic muted except when I'm talking, and everything that came through on that last call came through fine.
Did you want me to give you a synopsis of what she said?
Yes, please.
More or less, we had a citizen who used to be in the road resurfacing business. He believes that, in fact, we could get a better price if we did a negotiated deal with this contractor rather than piggybacking off of the Largo contract. He was also concerned about the apartment complex that is going to be adjacent to Harn Boulevard and the fact that there's going to be a lot of traffic and construction traffic. And why do the construction prior to that project being completed? He does believe that the type of resurfacing where the asphalt is being reused would be beneficial. He's just questioning the price and the timing. And we do not have anyone from engineering here to give additional color because we believe that everything was going to remain on consent. So we could push this to the next meeting, or we can approve it tonight. What is your pleasure?
I guess my question, Mayor, would be, and I'm hoping Mr. Horn can answer it, is this project time sensitive? If it's not, I would be very comfortable moving this to the next meeting.
Mr. Warren?
I don't see anything that would indicate that it's time sensitive. At least when you look at the agenda item, that is not highlighted in any way.
So I'll accept the motion to continue until the May 7th meeting.
I will make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that motion.
Thank you. Second by Councilmember Beckman. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Likewise opposed? Unanimous. All right. 8.1.
Ordinance number 9316-20. An ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real properties located generally north of State Road 590, west of McMullen Beach Road.
Can't hear.
South.
Can't hear.
Councilmember Beckman can't hear you.
No,
And I can't hear either.
Nor I.
Why don't you see if that works? Well, go ahead and test it.
Ordinance of the city.
Are you hearing Pam?
No, no.
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 Try this.
Did she pair the AirPads?
I have the AirPods in.
Did you pair it with the
Okay.
iPad?
All right. I'm going to try
There
again.
she comes.
There.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Now we hear
Thank you.
Yes.
You
All right.
read
That was a user error on my part. I forgot to unmute.
There we
I
go.
apologize.
It's all good.
Ordinance number 9360-20, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real properties located generally north of State Road 590, west of McMullen Booth Road, south of Sunset Point Road, and east of US Highway 19 North, whose post office addresses are 1748 El Trinidad Drive East and 2764 North Terrace Drive, all in Clearwater, Florida 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I
Is
would
there
make a
anyone in the
motion.
public? Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 9360-20 on second reading.
Second.
Is there anyone from the public to speak ordinance 9360-20? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. 8.2.
Ordinance number 9361-20, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real properties located generally north,
Is she reading?
south, State Road. Yes,
Unmute.
Yes.
I
Are you
am
unmuted?
I'm
unmuted.
hearing her. I hear her fine.
I don't hear her.
I don't hear.
I hear.
All right.
There it is.
I'll read it.
That's good.
Ordinance number 9361-20, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real properties located generally north State Road 590, west of McMullen Booth Road, south of Sunset Point Road, and east of US Highway 19 North, whose post office addresses are 1748 El Trinidad Drive East and 2764 North Terrace Drive, all in Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation into the city of Clearwater as residential low RL and water drainage feature overlay, providing an effective date.
Have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 9361-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 8.3.
Ordinance number 9362-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real properties located generally north of State Road 590, west of McMullen Booth Road, south of Sunset Point Road, and east of US Highway 19 North, whose post office addresses are 1748 El Trinidad Drive East and 2764 North Terrace Drive, all in Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low medium density residential LMDR, providing an effective date.
I make a motion
I have
to
a motion.
adopt ordinance 9362-20 on second reading.
Second.
Is there anyone from the public to speak to this item? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Item 8.4.
Ordinance number 9363-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real properties located generally north of Sunset Point Road, west of North Betty Lane, south of Union Street, and east of Douglas Avenue, whose post office addresses are 1919 Chenango Avenue and 1274 Sediva Circle North, all in Clearwater, Florida 33755, together with all rights of way of Chenango Avenue and Sediva Circle North into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt ordinance 9363-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item?
Lisa Lanza. I'm not sure if this is the time to say this, but I've said it before. We continually annex properties into Clearwater. And the question is whether we're adding more code enforcement officers on staff. And in addition, this is something new, but this is another point why we need more people on city council and why we need single member districts, because the city continues to grow and our representation hasn't grown. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak to this item? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Item 8.5.
Ordinance number 9364-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real properties located generally north of Sunset Point Road, west of North Betty Lane, south of Union Street, and east of Douglas Avenue, whose post office addresses are 1919 Chenango Avenue and 1274 Sediva Circle North, all in Clearwater, Florida 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential urban RU, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9364-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Item 8.6.
Ordinance number 9365-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real properties located generally north of Sunset Point Road, west of North Betty Lane, south of Union Street, and east of Douglas Avenue, whose post office addresses are 1919 Chenango Avenue and 1274 Sediva Circle North, all in Clearwater, Florida 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low medium density residential LMDR, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9365-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.6? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. 8.7.
Ordinance number 9366-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real properties located on the east side of US Highway 19 North, approximately 1,315 feet north of Sunset Point Road. Whose post office addresses are 24323 and 24479 US 19 North, all in Clearwater, Florida 33763, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9366-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.7? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. 8.8.
Ordinance number 9369-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located generally on the west side of Woodruff Avenue, approximately 380 feet south of Druid Road, whose post office address is 814 Woodruff Avenue, Clearwater, Florida 33756, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9369-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.8? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. 8.9.
Ordinance number 9370-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located generally on the west side of Woodruff Avenue, approximately 380 feet south of Druid Road. His post office address is 814 Woodruff Avenue, Clearwater, Florida 33756. Upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9370-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.9? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. 8.10.
Ordinance number 9371-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located generally on the west side of Woodruff Avenue, approximately 380 feet south of Druid Road. His post office address is 814 Woodruff Avenue, Clearwater, Florida 33756. Upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9371-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone to speak to item 8.10? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. 8.11.
Ordinance number 9375-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located generally on the west side of Daniel Street, approximately 150 feet southwest of Charles Avenue. His post office address is 2730 Daniel Street, Clearwater, Florida 33761. Together with certain portion of Daniel Street, Charles Avenue, State Road 580 and McMullen Booth Road rights of way into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said additions, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9375-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone to speak to item 8.11? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. 8.12.
Ordinance number 9376-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located generally on the west side of Daniel Street, approximately 150 feet southwest of Charles Avenue. His post office address is 2730 Daniel Street, Clearwater, Florida 33716, upon annexation into the city of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date.
The zip code is 33761, just noting that. And I move that we adopt ordinance
Yes, it is.
9376-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.12? See none, I have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, unanimous. 8.13.
Ordinance number 9377-20, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located generally on the west side of Daniel Street, approximately 150 feet southwest of Charles Avenue, whose post office address is 2730 Daniel Street, Clearwater, Florida 33761, upon annexation into the city of Clearwater as low medium density residential LMDR, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9377-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.13? See none, I have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. 8.14.
Ordinance number 9381-20, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, vacating a platted 5-foot utility easement lying in a portion of Lot 8, Block 69, Mandalay, as recorded in Plat Book 14, page 32 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt ordinance 9381-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.14? See none, I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Unanimous. 8.15.
Ordinance number 9382-20, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, vacating the west 5-foot portion of a 10-foot platted drainage and utility easement lying in Lot 12, Landmark Woods of Countryside, as recorded in Plat Book 72, page 92 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt ordinance 9382-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone to speak to item 8.15? Seeing none, I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. 8.16.
Ordinance number 9384-20, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, vacating the easterly 5 feet of a platted 10-foot utility easement abutting Landmark Drive and being a portion of Lot 11, Oak Brook Estates, according to the plat thereof recorded in Plat Book 118, pages 47 through 48 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 9384-20 on second reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.16? Seeing none, I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. That was riveting government, wasn't it, folks? All right. Now let's move on to amalgams. Item 9.1.
Thank you, Mayor. Amend the City of Clearwater Code of Ordinances, sections 32.211 and 32.212 to add definitions to specifically prohibit hazardous waste pharmaceuticals, to add requirements for dental facilities that remove or replace dental amalgam fillings, to add reporting and waste management practices for dental facilities, to require installation, certification, and maintenance of dental vacuum suction systems, and to provide exemptions from these requirements and pass ordinance number 9389-20 on first reading. Mr. Porter.
Good evening, David Porter, Public Utilities Director. I'm here this evening to ask you to pass on first reading ordinance 9389-20 that will allow us to modify sections 32.211 and 32.212 of the City of Clearwater Code of Ordinances to allow us to come into compliance with changes in the Environmental Protection Agency's rules regarding the discharge and disposal of hazardous waste pharmaceuticals and dental amalgams. The purpose of these rule changes are to protect those surface water sources where our wastewater treatment plants discharge. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the council for Mr. Porter?
You want to ask the
Anyone
public,
from the
or you looking
public?
for?
Anyone from the public like to speak to item 9.1?
I move approval of agenda item 9.1.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Ms. Aiken? Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Ordinance number 9389-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending Chapter 32, Article 5, Division 2, pre-treatment and discharge restrictions, amending Section 32.211 to add definitions, amending Section 32.212 to specifically prohibit hazardous waste pharmaceuticals, to add requirements for dental facilities that remove or replace dental amalgam fillings, to add reporting and waste management practices for dental facilities, to require installation, certification, and maintenance of dental vacuum suction systems, and to provide exemptions from these requirements, renumbering subsections, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance 9389-20 on first reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Unanimous. Item 9.2.
Appoint council members as representatives to serve on regional and miscellaneous boards. Council members, in your agenda pack for tonight, I have placed all the updates on the attachment.
Can't
So
hear.
the ones that are highlighted.
Hey, here.
Who can't hear?
I can't hear.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
That's weird.
No. What are you
I'm
speaking
hearing,
into?
I'm hearing Rose fine.
I'm now speaking into the mic, but I mean, I have the AirPods in.
I can hear perfectly. Councilmember Beckman and
I can't.
Yeah, I can.
Pam and who else?
Bill
Albritton.
can't.
I can hear her fine.
Albritton. So Albritton, Beckman. Why don't you go sit closer to Rosemary, Pam?
Do we want to give her my,
Just let me see if it'll pick her up if you turn your body. Turn to your left. Yeah. Go ahead, Rosemary.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes, I
Yes.
can hear.
Yes.
Okay, so
I hear
the
you with
agenda,
that.
Hold on. Don't everyone speak at once. Councilmember Beckman?
I can hear Rosemary.
Okay. Councilmember Albritton?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay.
okay, so the attachment that was for tonight's agenda has been updated with all the assignments that were provided at the work session. And those are the yellow highlights. The two items that are still pending are the Pinellas Collaborative Committee, which meets as needed, and it's a work group composed of municipal elected officials and a school board to update the public schools interlocal agreement. And we also need the two appointments for the DDB.
How often does that collaborative committee meet? I mean, I know it's as needed, but how often on generally?
It has not met for a few years.
I'll be glad to take care of it.
Thank you.
So that takes us to the DDB. So Councilmember Albritton sits on the DDB. Councilmember Bunker has expressed interest, as have I. Any comments, council members?
Would you like to have the public comment first or us?
I wanted to have discussion first so that they know what they're commenting upon,
Okay.
but we can go ahead and have the public comment first. We do have people in the audience that I think want to speak to this item. So if you filled out a card, would you please come forward and state your name and make certain that our city clerk has your card? And I would ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, my name is Paris Morphopoulos. I'm a resident of Clearwater and the chairman of the Clearwater Downtown Development Board. I'm here to respectfully and urgently.
Hold on, Paris. Can the council members hear this?
Yes.
Yes.
He could,
Maybe come a little bit closer. Is he speaking through the earphones or the mic in the computer?
Oh,
So,
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can.
Yes.
I can.
okay,
Yeah.
yes.
go ahead and restart the clock.
Okay. I'm here to respectfully but urgently ask you to disapprove Mr. Bunker's request to serve as an ex officio member of the DDB. I've spent over 30 years creating what I can in the way of a successful retail environment in downtown Clearwater. I have volunteered my time and energy to serve on the Downtown Development Board since 2009. My colleagues and I have accomplished some significant progress during my tenure on the board. Where has Mr. Bunker been and what has he been up to? He now says he wants to make a positive contribution to the downtown. Can he really be believed? Do you really think he intends to work in good faith with us? I quote, Scientologists are dangerous, intolerant lunatics, and any attempt to expose their ridiculous cult is to be encouraged. Mark Bunker. Okay, do you really think that we're going to work well together and that he's coming here in good faith? What is his true intention? It was not unexpected that he would request this position, considering Mr. Bunker's only interest in downtown is to further his anti-Scientology agenda and to enable his continuing harassment of Scientologists. I anticipated that one of his first actions would be to volunteer to serve on a board with multiple Scientologists. From my position as an elected official and a taxpayer of the city, I would strongly advise and caution the City Council to disapprove this appointment as it creates some potential legal jeopardy. His anti-Scientology ravings have been consistent over the more than 20 years I have known him. His harassment of me goes back to the 1990s. He apparently is seeking to continue it. As I briefed the DDB several months ago, he harassed and videotaped me and my staff multiple times, baiting us and then posting content on the internet. Even more unforgivable, he stalked and attempted to intimidate my young daughter, alone and a minor at the time. Beginning in September 2019, he regularly attended DDB meetings and, in violation of his injunction, attempted to harass me and other Scientologists on the board with his disgusting and vile comments. Mr. Bunker is a professional bigot. Bigotry has been his main source of income for the past 2 decades. This is what he does for a living. You've seen the rants of his videos, and you can see the response that I made at a meeting in October if you go onto the website of the DDB. He has been harassing me for over 20 years. Some have suggested we now need to be reasonable and let him have a chance to show that he can participate on the board in good faith. There's no evidence whatsoever that he's capable of this or has any intention of doing so. It's inconceivable to me that, knowing these facts, the City Council would approve such an appointment and place him in proximity to myself. The work of the DDB simply could not proceed in the very disruptive and antagonistic presence of this individual. I'll complete my sentence. We could take action as a board and remove him if we are forced to, but there's no ordinance that requires us to have an ex officio member. So I just need to know where I stand. I would like the City Council to make a decision whether to tolerate.
We'll make a decision tonight.
Yeah. We will see what that decision is. Thank you.
Next. to gain a clean set of earphones for everybody.
Oh, I see.
Please state your name, and I
Hi.
ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Raymond Casano. I live at Station Square Condominiums, downtown Clearwater. I've been here since 1984. I want to also protest any involvement of Mr. Bunker being on the Downtown Development Board, which I am a member. And I've been here since 1984, and I have seen what he has done, the protests he has committed, the chaos that he has done downtown, and I just don't want that anymore. I'm a licensed real estate broker, and per Florida statute 475, if I was to say anything against a religion, sex, creed, race, anything, I would be sued profusely by the state of Florida, and I would lose my license immediately. I feel there shouldn't be any less put on him to do the same thing. He claims that he is not confrontational and that he's really not anti-Scientology. I have a video I'd like to play. Is that okay?
As long
Can
as
someone
it
help me?
stays within the 3 minutes.
Well, I'm going to give my time, and then the next person may be able to continue.
Have you gotten time from someone else? There's a form that allows you to take their time. Or they can play the video.
They could play the
during
video,
3
right?
minutes.
Yes.
How long is the video?
It's a few minutes.
It's not going to show everybody.
Okay. I'm being told by our techies that it will not show onto the TV.
I can put the volume for you next.
So who can see this?
Nobody's going to be able to see it on TV. If there's audio that can be picked up, then you'll be able to see the audio. I mean, hear the audio.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, Councilmember Hamilton.
can Mr. Casano just give us a synopsis of what the video says? Because I think we all get the gist of it, but he can give us a synopsis of what it is.
He may be forced to do that, but I'd prefer just to hear it, just because then there's no ambiguity about what happened. But
Well, I certainly can get you.
volume.
I can get you a copy of it to see later, whatever. But the video shows Mr. Bunker cursing and vehemently getting in the way of Scientologists, saying lies, protesting. We do a lot of non-Scientology events at the Fort Harrison, and an Indian group was coming out and walked through very rudely. This is a public sidewalk. These people had no idea what was going on. It's very bad public relations for the city of Clearwater. It's been years. Before he got the injunction, this was tremendously, like on a weekly basis, very strong corners, yelling, screaming. It's just not good for downtown. As a downtown development board member, I want to boom downtown. We can't do this with this going on. Then when he got the injunction, you'll see in the video that he went to Chicago, California, other cities where there's Scientology, and did the same thing because he couldn't do it in the state of Florida. And that's what this video shows. And I can get copies of this video to any one of you if you want to see it. But it's quite ugly. It's very reprehensible. It offends me greatly as a citizen. I got here in 1984. I've been here as long as most people. And this man should not be on the same committee with us. There's 4 Scientologists on the board. This guy's vehemently and strongly anti-Scientology. He makes no bones about it. And he says that. And so if you want a DDB meeting where we're arguing with him all the time, it's just not going to be good for the city or the public relations of the city. Again, if any of you want a copy of this video, I can get it for you.
Thank you, Mr. Casano. You can forward a copy to any one of us and all of us will get it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Thank you.
Good evening. You can state your name for the record.
My name is Shahab Imrani. I live right down the street at Clearwater and Water's Edge. I've been can you hear me? Right. I've been a resident for only a couple of years out here. I recently got elected as a downtown development board and a board member. I have not met this gentleman. I happened to see his video recently. I was shocked to see someone to basically denigrate a religion like that, especially someone who's ran as his platform to get into the council member. I don't know what you guys do. If I was born and raised as a Jew, and if someone started screaming at me as a Jew, you're dirty, you're a liar, or the things this gentleman said on the video, that it's his recording, by the way, I would be shocked. If I did that with any of my employees, which I have over 120 of them, they're all professionals, many of them are attorneys and CPAs, I would get sued into Stone Age and lose my company. So having a city official to come in and start to get into downtown who doesn't even live in downtown Clearwater and express interest to be sitting on that board to help downtown, I just do not understand it. I strongly urge you not to include him in that group. Thank you very much.
Next.
Do I need this?
You don't want.
I'm just talking. Hi. Good evening. I'm Keenan Kinsel and a DDB board member. We moved our company to Clearwater from near Chicago over 15 years ago to be closer to family and our church. Our company has operated on Cleveland Street since we moved here. First, I'd like to commend the mayor, the city manager, city staff, and all the charities, churches, and healthcare providers for how well you've all taken care of everyone during this pandemic. As we know, the rearview mirror is easily viewed with 20/20 vision. It's always easy to sit on the sidelines and be critical of others. Taking responsibility for the greater good is always a mixed bag of goods. For example, even though it was done under a lot of public criticism, the new bridge built a few years ago exploded the beach's growth and has provided a better traffic pattern for the downtown corridor, which is steadily filled with high-tech businesses, residences, restaurants, theaters, and more. It's a great overall decision. Our current board has a strong mixture of local talent with proven deep business and charitable involvement in the area, all with a similar goal of making downtown great again for us all. Mr. Bunker is a new city resident and council member who has a proven one-track agenda of religious intolerance, troublemaking, hatred, and bigotry towards our church. He sitting on our meetings would be more than unacceptable. In the 60s and 70s, I spent my youth near where Michael Jackson and his family lived on the south side of Chicago. Besides the massive amounts of racism that I personally witnessed, I knew a very nice family who moved into our town and shortly thereafter had a cross burned in their front yard. They moved away shortly thereafter. It simply was not safe. Having this bigot sit in at the DDB meetings would be similar to having David Duke sit in at an NAACP conference. Grotesque, unsafe, and intolerable. Combining him with Tracy's obvious agenda to create further animosity towards our church will certainly not help the downtown thrive. My hope is you are able to make the correct decision and not be swayed by what she might print in her extremely biased paper. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Do I need a thing? Nope. Hi.
Good evening.
I'm Steve Anderson. I'm the CEO of Autoloop, now Affinitive. We're in the building right one of the downtown towers here. I am in a building with Stu. Between the two of us, we probably drive a lot of the economy here in downtown and employment. And I wanted to also represent from the employer side, what I'm dealing with in downtown. To have picketing going on, to have antagonism against Scientologists as my clients walk down the street, my employees as I bring them to restaurants, and I hear them yelling at the kind of behavior that we've seen from this gentleman, right, in the past. We have no reason to believe that will change. I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and start yelling at people in the streets, but I hope he's not. But it is what he's bringing back to this community. And I think we are making some positive strides towards, working together as a group. The Scientologists need to mix well with, your council and the common citizens of Clearwater, and we just need to work as a group to make this a better place. And I think this is a bad move. Right or wrong, there's obviously a lot of contention. You've heard a lot of reports here. I think that, we're simply moving down the wrong path, and I'm worried. I've invested a lot in this community. I've invested a lot in downtown. I'm a big taxpayer. I intend to stay here and grow my company, and as Stu is growing his company. But as it becomes more of an uncomfortable environment, for my employees who aren't all Scientologists, actually the vast majority are not, it creates an uncomfortable environment for them. So let's just make this a safe environment. Let's figure out how to make this a safe environment. So I would protest this move. Love it if you were on that board, that'd be great. But that's all I really have to say. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Good evening, everyone. Most of you know me. My name is Stu Showerman. I am the founder of a local high-tech company. My address is 144 Willardell Drive in Bel Air. We have about 750 employees in 2 downtown office towers. We're still hiring. We have 100 open positions. This is about the ex officio members of the DDB. As you may know, I have served on the DDB for 6 years. I was on the other side of this days. I rotated out in January. I know a little bit about what works in the DDB and what doesn't. As a local business owner, I have a vested interest in downtown, and I would like it to be a great place to live, to work, to have lunch, to go out for dinner, to shop. My employees are looking forward to this. They have indicated they would want that. The Downtown Development Board has in its charter to help foster a vibrant and flourishing downtown. The ex officio members of the DDB are city council members who have as their job to advise on the policy of the city. That's the kind of the hat they wear. While I was still a DDB board member, Mr. Mark Bunker appeared before us at that point as a citizen, and to me it was obvious that he was there to disrupt the proceedings and basically impede the progress of the DDB. You can see this for yourself, by the way, on the videos that are public on the Clearwater website. It now appears that Mr. Bunker, now he is elected as a city council member, he wants to be a DDB ex officio member. I think that that would be extremely counterproductive. It would impede the progress of helping downtown to redevelop. It is my opinion that having our mayor, Mr. Frank Hubbard, and Mr. David Albritton as ex officio board members would be highly productive, and I strongly recommend that scenario. Frankly, having Mr. Bunker as a DDB ex officio member would be a disaster. On a personal note, Mr. Bunker is using his freedom of speech to violate my constitutional right of freedom of religion. Thank you very much. I hope you guys make the right decision.
Good evening. My name is Brett Miller. I've lived here in Clearwater for 25 years, all of it downtown. As a former Army officer, I do a lot of work in the community as a veteran advocate. Mr. Horn, thank you for your service. Tonight, I would like to speak briefly on the subject of civil liberties in general and the Bill of Rights in particular. When I was commissioned into the Army as a young man, I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. I thought the primary enemy that I had to worry about was the Soviet Union. We won the Cold War, and I went on with my life. I was naive enough to think that all Americans understood and believed the words in our founding documents. No way did I ever think that I'd have to defend someone's right to freely practice their religion in America. For too long in this community, that has been the case. Clearwater has just come through an election where several candidates targeted Scientologists as a community with derogatory comments to win votes. In any other city in America, these attacks would be viewed as what they are, an attack on civil liberties and First Amendment freedoms. It's time to move beyond these biases, snide comments, and hate speech. Honestly, any one of you on the dais would be offended, perhaps even outraged, by such actions directed at your person, your family, or your religion. To close, I think some perspective is helpful. Scientologists have been part of this community for 45 years. That's longer than Countryside has been part of the city of Clearwater. It's longer than Ruth Eckerd Hall has existed. It's longer than the Clearwater Marine Aquarium has been open to the public. It's longer than the Blue Jays have existed as a baseball team, and it's longer than the Bucks have been playing football. Truthfully, it's only a handful of zealots, self-appointed elites, and a struggling newspaper that's created this situation in our city. I think Clearwater is poised to move beyond this situation, and I encourage you all to help lead that change. Mr. Mayor, you have a long-stated purpose to improve downtown. I think serving on the DDB with Mr. Albritton would be a great opportunity to continue that effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call. Okay. Council member questions or comments?
Would you like me to speak or wait?
That would be fine, Mr. Bunker.
Okay. I don't want to get into a tit and tat with any of the Scientologists who got up to speak. I'm happy to respond to.
Hold on, Mr. Bunker. We're not hearing you in council chambers for the audience.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
You need a sound check?
We've got it.
We're all fine?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. I'm always happy to talk to any Scientologist anytime, anywhere. L. Ron Hubbard himself said, communication is the universal solvent. And I don't believe I'm this crazed, wild person that they depict me as. I am curious to see the video that they want to show. I suggest they put it on the internet, as I have done with all of my video that I've shot since 1999, covering the world of Scientology. And I'm not attacking Scientologists in these videos or in person. What I talk about are some of the structures and controls built into organized Scientology that primarily target Scientologists themselves, like the practice of disconnection, where families are split apart, or the Rehabilitation Project Force, where Sea Org members who sign a billion-year contract to work lifetime after lifetime for Scientology for 16 hours a day, 5 or 6 or 7 days a week, for about $50 a week. And then if they want to leave, they sometimes get socked with a freeloader's debt, where they have to pay back tens of thousands of dollars for the room and board they got living in cramped quarters at the Hacienda Gardens complex, which I'm very happy that Chief Slaughter was able to go in and do an inspection. Now, Scientology may consider that harassment. That I was worried about the Sea Org members in the midst of this COVID-19, after having seen busloads of them tightly packed into a flag bus coming out over to the Superpower building. This is a real health threat. And when you've got 10 or more people living in one apartment in cramped quarters, this is a serious health threat to them and the community as a whole. So I just asked for some sort of check to make sure that their living conditions are safe for them. And I don't consider that harassment. What I'm trying to do in office is actually to, I didn't know we had a limit. Okay.
No, I'm not.
Sorry.
What I would like to stick to, though, Mr. Bunker, is talking about the actual DDB and your service on that particular board, why you think you're qualified, and why we think we can still be productive if you are on that board.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'd like to open up
litigate
some
the other
communication
stuff later, that's fine.
Okay. I would like to start a communication. And Scientology is a huge aspect of why the downtown has not been able to develop since they came to town in 1975. It's important, like the very first time I came to the meeting, if you want to watch that video of the Downtown Development Board, I asked a very simple question. You have a majority now of Scientologists on the board. If Scientology is the problem, are Scientologists the answer? And I think the answer should be yes. They should be trying to work to make a better situation for everyone downtown so they feel comfortable coming downtown. Right now, we've got a situation where almost all the remaining property of downtown was purchased with cash $113 million worth of property that hasn't been developed largely.
Yeah, to
And
turn the lights on in
we
here.
have no idea what's going to happen with those properties. If we're going to spend $64 million on Imagine Clearwater, we have to have some answers. And I'm not being confrontational about this. I think, and I think that people of Clearwater agree with me, that we need to have a different, more logical approach and not be afraid to say the word Scientology. I'm not taking Scientology away from anyone. I'm not taking L. Ron Hubbard away. All I'm saying is there are serious issues that we need to address. And just opening up a line of communication on the board, I think will be helpful. Mr. Casano and Mr. Imrani and other Scientologists will come before the board, before the council here to have projects approved. And I guarantee you, I will give them a fair hearing and have no problem approving a project if it makes sense. So I don't think I will have problems working with Scientology. And for them to fearmonger, and as Mr. Morphopoulos said at the second board hearing I spoke at, he had a prepared, written, multi-page statement comparing me to Hitler. So this is the type of over-the-top rhetoric that comes from Scientology, and it's not necessary, and it's not constructive. That's not what I'm doing. I haven't gone out and been shouting and cursing I've been back here in town since 2013. There haven't been any pickets. And I'm not leading the people of Clearwater to the Fort Harrison with pitchforks and torches. I'm doing what the people of Clearwater are interested in doing, finding out what the heck is going on and try to do something about it. That's why I was elected. The Scientologists tried to run somebody against me to stop me from being elected, but the people of Clearwater spoke. And again, I'm not attacking anyone. I want to be constructive.
Thank you, Councilmember Bunker. Other council members?
I guess I can jump in here.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Are you hearing me all right?
Yes.
Okay. This issue has put the council in a position, the way I view it, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. Either way we go, we're going to get vilified one way or the other. That doesn't really bother me necessarily. But I think where we have some issues is, and I don't want to get, what is that?
I think the
Everybody else hearing
library is
that
burning
beep?
down, but go ahead.
Okay. I mean, not to nitpick to a degree, but Mr. Morphopoulos made the point that Mr. Bunker violated the injunction when he came to speak, stood at the podium and speak. Well, if we weren't dealing with a pandemic right now, we'd be sitting on the dais, and if Mr. Morphopoulos comes to the dais, he would be violating that same injunction. So I'm throwing that out. That doesn't matter. There hasn't been any, to my knowledge, speaking with our police chief and other people, there has not been any major disruption attached to this injunction for many, many years. Now, that being said, Councilmember Bunker just made the comment, that's what the people elected me for. I think Councilmember Bunker, and I'm not being critical, but you have to remember that you won an election with 27% of the vote. That means 73% of the people did not vote for you. So you don't have a mandate to move forward with personal agendas by any stretch of the imagination. Now, to the DDB in particular, we're talking about ex officio positions where we do not vote. The city council members do not have a vote. You
just close it
are
down.
there to listen more than anything else. And if asked to give your position or to speak, then you do. So like I said, now back to the damned if we do, damned if we don't. I am willing, and this is not going to make some people happy. I am willing to give Mr. Bunker the opportunity to sit on this board, and I would like to do the motion I will be making after everybody's had their chance to speak is for Mayor Hibbard and Mr. Bunker to be the two people on that board. And I know the mayor would be very effective. The mayor has the ability to control a lot of things, and I respect him greatly for that. But the caveat is, if we give Councilmember Bunker, if we vote him onto this board, if he gets on this board and is there strictly as a disruption and creating confusion, I will not hesitate at the next city council meeting after that happens to make a motion to replace him on that board. So I'm willing to give him the chance. And I think it's time, as we all say, it's time for everybody to come together because we all want a good, vibrant downtown Clearwater. And we should all be pulling in the same direction. And I want to give Councilmember Bunker and my friends that are Scientologists on that DDB and people that I know, give everybody the chance to show that they are committed and believe that everybody has the ability to work together. So I'll stop at that.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Albritton?
Yeah, I'd like to give just my perspective from being on the DDB, being a board member on the DDB for over 10 years. I was chairman for 8 years, and then I came back when I was elected to council to be an ex officio member. And the job as an ex officio is different than being a member of the board. I mean, we're there to just advise and to kind of any questions by the board to the city, we're there to help with that. But my perspective of the long time I was on the board, we've always had ex officios and board members that were very passionate about downtown and had given a lot of their time and effort to really come together and to try to promote downtown. You know, this is a DDB is, a lot of people don't know this, it's an elected board. The DDB area, all the property owners in the area pay an extra tax that goes back to promoting the downtown, and the elected people are the ones that are on the board that spend that money the best they can to promote and to build a successful, vibrant downtown. And usually everybody has all their heart in it, whether they're Scientologists or anybody else. They're there because they have a passion for it, and they really have a vision that they can really make our downtown, which is certainly has a lot of very exciting parts of it. You know, make that come into fruition and make it a very successful downtown. So I know Mr. Bunkers would like to come in and share some of his concerns. He was elected as a council member. I would almost say to him that he probably, if he has concerns, he would be probably better fitted for bringing those concerns as a councilman in the audience. He could always come to a DDB meeting, but to the ex officio, I think, would really needs to have a vision of a vibrant downtown and really needs to work and to get everybody together to work with that mission. with that said, I am fine. If Hoyt wants to make a motion, I will step down. I have served probably now about 14 years on DDB, and I'm still very passionate about downtown. But if the mayor I know is also passionate, and I would certainly step down to give Mr. Bunker the, with Mayor Hibbard, to be the two ex officio members. And I kind of agree with what Mr. Hamilton said, that, if it does seem to be that Mr. Bunker is not pulling people together and moving things forward, the agenda being promoting downtown, and, I would certainly think that he should be replaced at that time. But I'll listen to what everybody else says and go from there.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Beckman.
Well, it's a complex issue. I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective on it as a newly elected official, and one who did go out door to door for months and months and talk to residents about what their concerns were. And a majority of them are concerned about downtown, and usually in the same breath they utter the word Scientology. And so it is an issue. I don't know that I'm not going to comment on whether or not it's Mr. Bunker's personal issue or using absolutes as his only issue. I don't believe that. But I do think we need to look at the fact that he was elected. It was a large part of his platform. And I think people want to see what he can do to improve downtown and to improve our relationship with the primary landowner in downtown. So I think he should be given the opportunity to do that. I have faith that he'll operate collaboratively and within legal parameters. And I think that it might really be best if he's there and can speak to those constituents who voted for him uh, based on that large part of his platform, and he can report back fully what are our legal parameters that we are operating in order to revitalize downtown. And I I do concur with Mr. Hamilton that it probably is wise to give Mr. Bunker a chance. I don't think we have any reason to doubt that he's going to conduct himself appropriately. I do realize that there will be tensions because of past behaviors on either side. I'm not going to make judgments about all that. I wasn't here for that. Um, and I respect the heartfelt sentiments of our residents who are Scientologists and spoke. But I would say let's give Mr. Bunker a chance. He will operate within the parameters of his function on that board if he is appointed to that board. And I think who better to report out the truth of how that board is operating and how they're working to revitalize downtown than him. There wouldn't be any suspicions to residents who have suspicions if, quote, their guy is down there reporting back, I guess. It's kind of my thoughts on that.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Beckman. Ms. Aiken, a couple questions. So officially, within our rules, there really weren't ex officio members on the DDB.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Our ordinance does not require ex officio or mention ex officio members. Ms. Call did some research into the minutes, and in 1987, council began having ex officio members, and at the same time, they had, I believe, two DDB members who were also to be ex officio to CRA. That practice fell off a long time ago. But we have still continued to appoint ex officio members to the DDB. But they are not required by ordinance.
So that's just been practice. It's not by ordinance.
Yes, sir. That is a
Okay.
practice.
Councilmember Hamilton was completely right. Nobody is going to be happy tonight. Any of the decisions that we make, we're going to have someone unhappy individually on the council, but also the fact that he was elected just 1 month ago. Councilmember Albritton said he's been on the DDB for 14 years. Most of that time was as a member of the DDB, not as an ex officio. Just so those out there in TV land understand, he's only been a council member for 2 years. I had also asked to be on the DDB. I have reservations, frankly, on both sides. I want all of our boards within the city to function. If they don't function, we need to find out why and fix it. At the same time, I am somewhat reluctant to not give a brand new council member the benefit of the doubt. We have to work on so many issues. Some people say we're scared of talking about Scientology. I can tell you I am not scared about talking about Scientology. I went around and talked to a lot of citizens and also did a very long questionnaire. Some people were dismayed with that questionnaire, but I did get a lot of feedback. I do not believe that we ought to try to not talk about what some people call the elephant in the room. Scientology is here in this community. I think we need to have a better relationship than we have in the past. It does not behoove us as a city to not have cooperation and to have an open dialogue, because I want the entire city to prosper. That means everybody has to come to the table and make contributions. It cannot be a one-sided relationship. So I am going to support Councilmember Bunker being on the DDB with the understanding that he is going to understand our role as ex officios, which are really liaisons between the DDB and the city and giving perspective. But I also plan to be sitting next to him with the vote of the rest of the council. So with that, are there any other comments or questions? I would entertain a motion on that.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we appoint yourself and Mr. Bunker as ex officio members to the DDB. And with all the other comments that have been made, those will be applied when and if necessary.
Second.
Do I have a second? I have a second from Councilmember Albritton. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. If I may, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. It passes unanimously. Now, do you want us to approve the entire slate of all the boards? Can I have a motion to approve all of the appointments?
Do we need to approve the agenda item before, or just, can I make a motion to approve the proposed slate of board appointments?
My understanding is you can just approve the slate.
I just did. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. All right. 9.3.
Amends council rules to allow discussion prior to making a motion and adopt resolution 20-17.
Can't hear. Can't hear. Can't hear.
Amend council rules
to allow council discussion prior to making a motion and adopt resolution 20-17.
Are there any
Mayor, would you
questions
like
from
to present
council on
this?
this item?
I will make a
Is
motion.
there anyone to
approve
speak to
agenda
item 9.3? I'm not hearing you, Wade.
I'm sorry, you're not hearing me?
No, I didn't hear you on the motion.
How about now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I make a motion to approve agenda item 9.3.
Second.
Is there anyone from the public to speak to item 9.3?
Lisa Lanza, could you just explain a little bit what this motion is? What the topic is at hand?
This is more or less changing some of the rules for the council. Frankly, I asked the council to approve this because I want to go back to having discussion, not just questions before a motion is made. We are also going to have discussion at work sessions rather than just asking questions. In my opinion, work sessions are for the council. That's kind of our time to really hammer out different items. And I think it helps crystallize everyone's opinions so that we're more efficient in the council meetings. These rules were changed after I left in 2012, and I'd like to change them back.
Okay, sounds like a great thing. I was just wondering though, are you going to allow public comments for items not on the agenda before the workshop meeting, which is the way it was? It used to be that way. Before the workshop, the mayor would say, are there any comments on anything not on the agenda?
Never when we had work sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I mean, the council meetings are for when the citizens get to come. And the reason for that is work sessions are generally done in the morning. And if we were taking public comment, Lisa, you're done. If we were having public comment during work sessions, then most of the people who are working would not have the opportunity to come and avail themselves of asking those questions. Okay?
Mayor,
Anyone else speak to item 9.3? Okay.
Mayor,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Ms. Aiken?
Resolution number 20-17. Sorry.
All right.
Resolution number 20-17, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending council rules, providing an effective date.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution 20-17.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Did I hear Mr. Bunker?
Yes.
Unanimous. Item 9.4.
Provide direction for the establishment of a grant professional services
Can't hear.
program.
Ms. Beckman cannot hear you.
I can't either.
Not hearing him well.
Okay.
Provide
Unmute.
direction for the establishment of a grant and professional services program for business owners affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. I think I'll remove these for the presentation. There's a little bit of feedback. Denise Anderson, Director of Economic Development and Housing. Mayor, Council, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you tonight, and I appreciate your indulgence today. We did have the opportunity to speak one-on-one earlier today about this topic. Am I to continue?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. In preparation for tonight, I wanted to share that Economic Development and Housing staff have researched best practices and have engaged peers, partners, and small businesses to identify needs and concerns. And while robust federal programs provide for significant relief, they can be difficult and confusing to access for many of the city's small business enterprises. Social distancing and related changes to business operations have significantly impacted the way in which business is conducted now and is likely to have long-term effects on business operations post-pandemic. To support the recovery of small business enterprises, staff is seeking direction tonight of the following program concept. A $2,500 cash grant to brick and mortar businesses, that is, they have a physical location and are duly operating in a properly zoned facility. Additionally, a $2,500 cash grant for small business enterprises that may include brick and mortar businesses as well as home-based or mobile-based businesses who have agreed to complete a professional services agreement engagement with attorneys, CPAs, web design professionals, or marketing professionals and related. And a component of that would be the management of such engagement through partner agencies. Those partner agencies we've identified as being Amplify Clearwater, Prospera, and Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation. These agencies would receive a 10% administrative fee for the services that they are providing. As described, the program would provide the following benefits. It would provide these small businesses with the funds needed for overhead expenses. It would provide them with the professional guidance and support necessary to mitigate the long-term impacts of COVID-19, would generate economic activity for service providers, and would provide funding for partner agencies who are expected to have operating budget impacts as a result of the pandemic. Program eligibility criteria currently is identified to mirror very closely the program that St. Pete recently adopted, known as the Fighting Chance Fund. So the following is based largely on this criteria, although there are some key differences. We are suggesting 25 or fewer employees. This is not full-time equivalents, but number of persons. We are suggesting that they must have a business tax receipt. They must be locally and independently operated business as defined by the following. The business would be registered by the state of Florida on sunbiz.org, with the majority of the business ownership being held by private individuals or a privately held company, therefore not publicly traded. Businesses must make independent decisions regarding its name, its signage, brand, appearance, purchasing practices, hiring and distribution, and must be solely responsible for paying its own rent, marketing, and other business expenses without the assistance of corporate headquarters outside of Clearwater. I'm speaking here about franchise operations, if you will, and corporately owned same. Businesses must have no more than 3 franchises or outlets with the same name, and businesses must demonstrate a loss of income due to COVID-19. Additionally, we are suggesting that they must be in the following industry categories: restaurants, including full service, limited service, and cafe establishments; bars, retail, or personal service businesses such as hair and beauty salons and other personal services, including barbers, massage parlors, tattoos, and spas; personal care services such as child, disabled, or elderly care services or funeral services; laundry services such as dry cleaning, laundromats, garment repair and alterations and related; cleaning services, pet care services, personal and household goods repairs and maintenance, fitness centers and gyms, event spaces and services; and for your consideration, travel agencies. Travel agencies is a component business that was recently added by St. Pete. The technical assistance that we're seeking, again, is CPAs and accountants who will largely advise businesses on the appropriateness of accessing federal programs and other grants or loans which may become available. Attorneys to advise small businesses on legal matters such as legal notices, landlord negotiations, vendor relationships, and the like. Web designers and related services to assist businesses with the creation of an online marketplace or website that can further be managed by the small business. Marketing professionals or graphic designers to assist them with the development of marketing campaigns. Under the program, partner agencies, again, Amplify Clearwater, Prospera, and Hispanic Business Initiative Fund, which is doing business as Prospera, would provide the following services. They would match that small business with the appropriate provider. They would monitor the performance of those providers, including response time, number of hours of service provided, collection of an agreement of service, and the outcome of that service, receipt of invoices from the providers, and they would process those invoices to the city of Clearwater, inclusive of a 10% agency fee. the payment to the provider once we have remitted payment to the agency. Economic Development and Housing Department will provide the following: the intake of the applications, including Spanish language, certification of eligibility, identification of eligible sources of funds, which may include Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Funds, Community Development Block Grant COVID funds, Downtown Development Board funds, and/or Community Redevelopment Agency funds, which require board or trustee approval. We would handle the referral to the partner agency, and we would handle the invoice processing for immediate payment to agencies, to brick and mortar establishments, and to small businesses who complete the terms of services. As I mentioned, funding would come from CRA or DDB in part. Those are geographically constrained and require board or trustee approval. CDBG, the City of Clearwater, received an allocation of $492,000 under the CARES Act. To date, it cannot be used as a grant to businesses, but it may be used for provision of technical services and the administration fees that I've described. Additional funds may be available for our entitlement allocation with similar restrictions. Therefore, what I am recommending would be the provision of a total of $4 million, of which there would be approximately 700 businesses served for direct payment of grant as a brick and mortar establishment. An additional 600 businesses would receive the professional services and the opportunity for that $2,500 grant. The funding that I've described available to us, there is only approximately $800,000. There is a $3.2 million funding gap that needs to be resolved before a program such as this could be adopted, should you desire to do so. Be happy to take any questions.
Questions for Ms. Sanderson? Councilmember Hamilton?
Well, don't really have a question. We had our one-on-one with her today. Like I said, the real thing here is identification of the funding source. I know, one of the things she put forward today was, possibly using some of the BP oil spill money. Well, we've already earmarked that for the Crest Lake plan, and I am not going to move that money away from that because I've been very steadfast in saying that I wanted that money to go towards a legacy project that would last for generations. So while I like as I told Denise today, I like the foundation and the foundation of this program, but the devil is going to be in choosing the paint color and the window decorations. How are we going to fund it, and exactly who's going to be eligible for it? Obviously, the PPP money that's out there, and a lot of people have been applying for. If you've received that money as well, I'm thinking this grant should probably be for people who didn't qualify or couldn't get that. Now, I did make the comment, and I probably said I wasn't going to do it here, but I like but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I like the concept of the program, but when you cut it down to its cut to the core of it, a business that this $2,500, if this $2,500 is going to be the difference between being able to reopen or stay open and not, I'm not sure the longevity of that business anyhow. So I'm a little, I've got a lot more questions that need to be answered through the process. I'm willing to, let's take the process, let's drive this car a little farther down the road, but I've got to have some questions answered.
Okay. So I will assume that you will be getting those to Ms. Sanderson, and we can't share them between ourselves, but
right.
We'll need to make decisions, though, at least at the next council meeting is my target for this.
Right.
I'm also wondering if we're going to find out additional information on April 24th as to whether some of the money that was coming through the county may trickle down. I can tell you that I have talked to Congressman Christ and Congressman Bilirakis this week asking, that some of the money come directly to cities, obviously, because we know our needs better than the county or the state or certainly the federal government. Councilmember Albritton, any questions or comments?
No, I think it's a good program. I'm glad we're doing something. I think it's actually better than St. Pete's Fighting Chance program here. But of course, as Mr. Hamilton said, we've got that big gap of 3.2 that we need to figure how we're going to come up with that. But I think the framework is good, and I think we will know a little bit more in the coming week as far as how that money's going to trickle down to us and see how we can use it. So I'm glad. Well, it looks like they're turning the lights out in here. I'm glad that we got this going, and I look forward to talking more about it. So, thank you, Denise.
Councilmember Beckman.
I too had an extensive conversation with Ms. Sanderson today and appreciated her explanations and elaboration on it. And I think and as she explained to me, she's looking for an okay to move forward in fleshing this out more. And I think that's a great, absolutely, go forward with fleshing it out in more details. And she did explain too that it's targeted towards our primarily businesses who have been deemed non-essential and are struggling more than essential ones. And also that 10% fee that would go to professional service providers was part of the program in order to secure those HUD funds and use them in this type of a program. And so I think that's important to understand because it's a different thing than with St. Pete's program. I'm in favor of learning more, and it'll be great to have our small business owners listen in on those discussions and developments and how it gets fleshed out.
Councilmember Bunker.
Yes, I also really enjoyed the one-on-one conversation today with Ms. Anderson. One question that I had, because $2,500 is a drop in the bucket, but it's a good first step. I know that a lot of people in the city are probably asking the same question that I'm asking. We've got $64+ million targeted for Imagine Clearwater. Can't some of that money be used to help our businesses and our unemployed workers make it through this rough patch? Can we downsize the park a little bit or delay because we don't need to have that opened immediately. We need to get business back up on its feet when it's possible. I see I'm frozen. I don't know if you can hear me or not. But that was my concern. Otherwise, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Hamilton, the one thing I thought a lot about it, Denise gave a very good presentation. We had a good dialogue. I agree with you to an extent. The 2.5 or the 2,500 may not make the difference, obviously, for a lot of companies. My concern also is that we give 2,500 to a company that is in fact going to fail, regardless. I want to make certain that we're keeping people who are on the cusp still going. I like the fact that we're engaging professionals. I've talked to a lot of the bankers. The PPP ran out of money today, is my understanding, and that may be reallocated additional monies, but the banks are having a difficult time getting through the entire grant process. I think the other thing we always have to remember is when we pay for one thing, it means we are not paying for something else. And so that's something that we can have to continue to discuss as we explore this opportunity. And the only other thing I would say is we also need to understand what our responsibilities are as a local government versus the county, versus the state, versus the federal government. We do not have the ability to print money like the federal government, sadly. And so I think we just need to keep all of those factors in mind. But I am in support of going forward and trying to crystallize the program and see if it's something that we actually want to spend money on, and where the other buckets of money would come from. Do either of you need additional guidance from us or Denise that we haven't provided tonight?
Mayor, Council, what I've heard is that you all support moving forward. We know when we brought up to you, we knew we had a lot more detail to provide, but it's the sense of urgency that has driven us to come to you with some unfinished work. But I think I've heard what I need to hear. Denise, do you need anything else? I think we understand what we need to, what our next steps are. I don't know, Pam, I know Pam, he has some concern that we understand the idea of what kind of revenue sources will work in this context and which ones won't. There may be some flexibility we may ask of you all in creative ways of being able to fund this. But we need to show you what that looks like.
Right. Ms. Aiken, anything to add?
We have just started looking at this issue this week. I think that many local government attorneys, when talking about programs like this, are going to have some concerns about the Florida Constitution and our ability to spend money or to give money to private businesses. So that's something that we are looking at. The emphasis has to be on the public purpose. And so we are researching that. We are looking at that. We have reached out to the St. Pete City Attorney and have not heard back. So we are reviewing it and understand your objectives and goals. I'm not on mute.
Sanderson, anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. Anyone from the public like to speak to item 9.4? 9.5.
Mayor, Council, Michael Delk is going to provide a Imagine Clearwater update.
Would you want to take a break?
I would.
Okay, we're going to take it's 8 o'clock and the rules that you guys follow are every 2 hours. So we're going to take a 10-minute recess. item 9.5, Mr. Delk.
Mayor, Council, Michael Delk, Assistant City Manager. I want to take just a few moments to give you a brief update on the status of Magic Clearwater. Obviously, this project, like most everything we are doing today, has been greatly impacted by the C-19 pandemic, but our consultants do continue to work. So I'll bring you up to speed on kind of where we are with the project right now. Over the last several weeks, both consultant teams, both Stantec and Skanska, have continued to work with the construction manager at risk, or I should say Stantec and Williamson Dakar, who is the architectural firm working on the library project, have continued to work with our construction manager at risk, which is Skanska, on the establishment and refinement of the project details, the phasing, the value engineering, and the project budgets. Stantec is also working on a limited basis, advancing those areas of the project they feel that are not at risk due to the current budgetary and value engineering review. The main library renovation review is nearly complete. Those drawings are virtually at the permit level. The overall Imagine project, Clearwater project review will continue at least through the end of this month. There will be a meeting. We're anticipating this could be towards the end of the month as well, with the CM at risk and the city to decide on the project details, the value engineering items that they're looking at currently, the budgets and the schedules. Williamson Dakar design is, as I indicated, closer to completion. So is the once the site design, the value engineering items, and budget have been reviewed and resolved, we can approach permitting the main library renovations. Stantec believes this process and the COVID-19 impact appear to result in potentially pushing the start of remaining portions of construction documents to early to mid-May. And we anticipate that that this may result in a 2-month delay to the overall project unless we can resolve the budget and the value engineering issues sooner. Once the value engineering exercise has been resolved, we will work with Skanska in determining if any change to the design phasing strategy is required to expedite the beginning of construction. Again, both Skanska and our other consultants will be ready to review their work and recommendations to us by the end of April. We do have the, as indicated, the construction manager at risk on board. They will be submitting to us gross maximum prices with an anticipated completion date for each of those. We will review and approve these. These will be coming before you. The city's expressed desire to move on the main library renovation in advance of the park leads us to anticipate a separate GMP for just that portion of the work as soon as we can settle on how the city, if and how the city wants to proceed with that. Skanska, our construction manager at risk, is also considering the opportunity or possibility that they can proceed fairly quickly on the underground utility work and other items that will facilitate the development of the overall park. This would come in the form of the second GMP or gross maximum price work. Ultimately, there will be at least one final GMP for the overall park project. We're going to be meeting and setting up a meeting with staff and the consultant team next, probably next Friday, thereabouts, the end of next week, to really get more details and updates on where the rest of this project stands. So I want to have already started setting up with you all individually, the mayor and the council, each of you meetings next week to try to sit down and talk through this project. I think, you know, clearly we all know that we may have to react to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we'll work our way through that as best we can. But I think we also understand that with a new group of elected officials, I want to meet with you individually and understand what your various issues or concerns may be, because that may impact the current work program. how these projects proceed. So obviously we need to work through any of those issues, and we need to do that fairly quickly as our consultant team is marching towards permit documents. So I'll be sitting down with you individually next week to kind of more fully update each of you on the status of these various projects and get a sense from you as to what items, if any, you wish to weigh in on collectively as a corporate body, and then we'll react to that accordingly. And I think we should have hopefully time to do that before we get to the point where we're ready to permit anyway. So this is, but it's something I think we need to handle fairly quickly. Last thing I'll say about that is that we'd originally had been hopeful that we could commence some breaking of ground on the construction of our new waterfront park in May. I think realistically at this point, we're probably looking at, optimistically midsummer, if not early fall. So we'll just kind of have to see, number one, of course, what impacts, if any, the current national emergency has. And then secondly, what, if any, changes you all as a corporate body want to make in this process, if any. And so with that, I'll try to answer any questions. And again, we'll discuss it more in detail individually with you next week.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Mr. Horn, what are you hoping to accomplish tonight with this item?
Well, one was the update, because we haven't had a chance to really give you that in light of COVID-19. The other is any definite ideas that some of you may have about Imagine Clearwater that we could benefit from knowing tonight. We clearly want to convene a conversation as quickly as we can to solicit ideas about any particular changes that you all want to make. Since this ship has been sailing in a certain direction, if there's any intent for it to go in a different direction, we need to know it as soon as possible. So I don't know. I've talked to all of you, so I don't know whether you're prepared to just give us some insight as to what you're thinking. Campaigns did address some concerns three of you had about Imagine Clearwater. So we're on the sidelines, and we're just anticipating that there are some different ideas that you all may have compared to the previous council.
So Councilmember Hamilton and Albritton, you have obviously been a part of this process. Do you have any comments? Councilmember Hamilton?
I don't really have any comments per se on this item. I'm interested actually at this point, I'm kind of like the city manager. I'm interested to hear what the new members of the council, what their perspective is, and see what common ground we have and what areas do we have some work to do.
Councilmember Albritton?
Yeah, my position, has been, let's keep this moving forward. This is something that I've been really anticipating for the last 2 years I've been on council. So I'm not looking for any changes, but I realize we have three new people on council, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say about it. And if there's any direction change that would concern me, I'd like to see where we go with it. So.
Councilmember Beckman.
I couldn't hear you. Did you say something?
I asked for your comments, questions, opinions.
Okay. I didn't hear the first part about Councilmember Beckman. I do
That's
have
okay.
concerns that I have that have informed my outlook as far as connecting with residents. Is it really needs to be a very family focused part for the residents first and foremost. People have told me that they would like it to be sustainable and very environmentally friendly, LEED certified. It's important. I think residents balk a little bit at the $64 million price tag. And then people have expressed to me their concerns that, the size of the amphitheater was not the recommendation of staff or experts that we hired for consulting on the project. So those are concerns that I spoke to during my campaign, and they are concerns that residents brought up to me regularly. And I had, a couple of other things in response to Mr. Delk's statements, and I appreciate him scheduling time to meet with us individually next week, and I'm looking forward to that. But Mr. Delk also said that there's a staff and consulting team meeting next week, and I realize that council members aren't part of that, and I appreciate that and respect that. But I was hoping maybe we could have some notes that would be shared from that meeting, so that we would know, what kind of transpired during that meeting. And then when Mr. Delk has said he'll meet with us individually, and then we'll need to work through any of the issues that we might bring up, I'm curious as to what does that look like? We need to work through any potential issues.
Well, just one of the issues is no previous council can ever obligate a new council to anything. So that's something you always need to understand. So I think that's somewhat what they're thinking about. There can be, in fact, a change of direction. I think one of the things that we're going to have to determine is what are some of the costs of turning the ship, because a lot of the work has in fact been done. There would be additional cost if there are changes. Obviously, all of you saw the comments I had in the paper. But anything else? Councilmember Beckman, I'll go to Councilmember Bunker.
No, Mayor Hibbert, I'm fine.
Councilmember Bunker?
Yes, well, my earbuds just died, so I hope you can hear me okay just through the built-in here. Is everything fine?
I hear.
We can hear you, but use your outdoor voice.
Okay, I'd be happy to. So what I heard most when talking to people who live here is they didn't vote for a 4,000 seat amphitheater. And the price tag, which keeps rising on the park, is concerning. I love the plans for the park. It looks beautiful, but I'm not convinced that a prettier park than the one we have right now is going to lure people downtown. What's been successful so far in the park have been concerts. That's the only time we really draw people downtown. And with the 4,000 seat amphitheater, I know it promises world-class artists, but they come with world-class ticket prices. Like recently, Steve Martin and Martin Short appeared at Ruth Eckerd Hall, and I went, "Ooh, I would love to see them." I think the cheapest ticket was $115. So if we're programming expensive events that most people in the city really aren't able to attend, I think that should be taken into consideration as well. A better designed band shell that costs less and is more inviting to the locals rather than drawing people in from around the county, I think is what the people of Clearwater had in mind. Beyond that, it is a beautiful plan. And I see down the line that this would be an asset to the city. Right now, I think one of the key things we need to figure out is what is Scientology going to do with all the properties they have? If they want to bring in businesses and be good landlords, then that's great. Then we have a chance to actually prosper. If they're going to sit on those buildings and keep them empty as a negotiating tool or just to derail Imagine Clearwater, I think we need to know about that. So those are my concerns, and I'm not opposed to moving forward on aspects that need to get started right now, but perhaps we can hold off on actually constructing, which I know is going to be down the way sometime, the amphitheater itself. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Councilmember Bunker. Mr. Delk, back to one of Councilmember Beckman's questions, which was that there's going to be this staff meeting along with our construction and design folks, and that the council members won't be there, but to have some notes. What is the work product that you're expecting to come out of that meeting?
I think it's to get a really good understanding of where they are in terms of the construction drawing and value engineering process. So this is really a construction management meeting. It'll probably be led by our Mr. Kurtz in engineering. I will sit in on it because I want to get, kind of back up to speed. We've not focused on it for a few weeks. And so I think Skanska is getting fairly close with their work on the library. So it's really a chance for us to make sure we're current in terms of construction management and where the drawings, the value engineering, and these various phases of this project stand. So I think, admittedly, the one-on-one meetings, many of them will come prior to our meeting with the construction managers. But on the other hand, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I may get a sense of the things that we're going to have to do a much deeper dive on in terms of the overall project by the time I'm through my one-on-one meetings with you all next week. So I'm confident we can work through that wherever you as a collective body are, but we'll start learning that, and then to the extent that we think that's going to impact our process, then I'm going to have to work with engineering and start shifting gears on the project if we think we need to look at a different scenario. So really it's to make sure we're all current with our construction manager at risk firm.
And we are at what percentage now? 60?
Right now they're between, we had 60% earlier this year. We're moving towards, pretty quickly towards 90% drawings. As I indicated early in my presentation, the fact that the underground utilities are, Skanska is anticipating can move forward fairly quickly. We're probably in a pretty good place with a lot of the undergrounding. So if it's, let's just hypothetically, if it's a difference between one asset in the park or not being in the park, that's probably not a big change in terms of the undergrounding, the initial start of construction. If there is a tendency towards a more substantial redesign of the park, then clearly the undergrounding probably can't go forward. So I think what I need to do is to work with you as a group, what those different perspectives are, and then we'll just have to try to marry those over the next few weeks and see what the impact of that is on our overall project. So that's kind of what I see as being very important for us within the next 30 days. We have to figure that out, or we will substantially, and depending upon the amount of change, it might substantially delay the project as well. But at that point, really, I would make the case it might be a different project. So, I just need to assess where you all are as a corporate body. And I think we should really figure this out in the next 30 days or so if we can.
Oh, I want to. I mean, I know there's different constituencies for different segments of the project. I really break the project into 3 different segments, 4 if you add the library, and I know there's different constituencies for that. I can tell you, and I would like my fellow council members to know, that I would prefer to see the performance venue, and have always believed that it would be better off in the northern portion of the park, with an orientation of the stage either being in the northwest corner or further north, with the bandstand using its current orientation, for a couple reasons. First of all, I think the library then becomes a buffer. You're also moving the performance venue away from the residential. It also separates it from what I consider to be the playground area and the water feature and walking paths. And so in my opinion, that would be one change that I would like to see. It also allows during the setup and breakdown for those other two components not to be bisected. Also, the load in and load out would be off of Drew Street and closer to Osceola rather than having, you know, there's always, currently we bring in semis, we bring in trailers for the talent, we bring in portalets. One of the things that's envisioned in this project is to get rid of a lot of those temporary things that frankly are unsightly, not real comfortable to use, but also moving the concert venue north will improve the views coming off of Cleveland Street. I can tell you I am not a big fan of the library changes. I think it's a lot of money, especially the rooftop. I don't think it's a large enough venue, and I also think we're getting into a business that we're competing with hotels. The aquarium is doing a similar venue that's significantly larger, that's also going to have water views. Whenever you get into a project of this size, there's always going to be some triaging and value engineering. That would be one that I would take right off the top. I don't mind the improvements on the ground level of the library and incorporating it into the overall Imagine project, but I will never vote for the rooftop venue. It was ill-conceived back in 2000 when this library was built, and I came in 2001. Councilmember Hamilton was also on the council. I don't think he actually voted on the project, but there was never a proper catering kitchen. There were solid walls looking west, which is really where the wonderful view is. And I don't think it's going to be a venue. And I also haven't seen any ROI numbers on that. I would love to see some numbers on what we think the return on investment of having that type of a venue on top of the library. So those are some of the questions that you can anticipate when we have our one-on-one. Are there any other questions or comments from the council?
Well, the only comment I can make after listening is, yes, Frank, I was there and I did vote to build the new library. And it did have the roof. Yes, and it did have the rooftop component. But my recollection was it wasn't to the extent that the new proposal is. And, you know, I'm not sure, and I can't say I don't disagree with you as far as, you know, do we need to be competing with other entities in our downtown as well as within a, you know, quote unquote stone's throw? So, you know, we can discuss that going forward. You know, the rooftop's a great area to do certain things, but I don't know if the investment does have the ROI that we might like to see, but I don't know that it's there. So.
Thank you for that clarification. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Dahl. 10.1.
Confirm an emergency rule of procedure for public meetings and adopt resolution 20-15. Council, this is a rule for the conduct of the virtual meetings. Basically sets the framework for you establishing the procedure and process that we earlier discussed on how the meetings will be conducted.
Any questions for Ms. Aiken?
Move approval of agenda item 10.1.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 10.1? Seeing none? All in fa-
Resolution,
We need to do the item, right?
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Unanimous. Ms. Aiken?
Resolution number 20-15, adoption of emergency rule of procedure, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, adopting rules for use of communication media technology for public meetings during health emergency due to COVID-19, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt resolution 20-15.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.2.
Confirm emergency rule, excuse me. We move to the next agenda item.
Okay.
Confirm COVID-19 emergency proclamation and adopt resolution 20-16. Council,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the purpose of this resolution is to confirm every 7 days we have to renew the proclamation of emergency. Mayor, you have executed those on the past 2 Wednesdays. This is council's confirmation of that. The additional thing that this resolution does is also the previous actions that council took expired in 30 days. That relates to the meetings of the other entities other than this council, the emergency purchasing, closing of Beach Walk, and a couple other things. So this renews all those with the following exceptions. The emergency measure extended is modified so that the emergency management director is empowered to open and close Beach Walk as necessary. So they can make the determination that Beach Walk can be opened and or closed without coming back to council for that. The other issue that was added is the Community Development Review Committee, the DRC, which is a public meeting but does not have public comment. It is staff. Would like to meet consistent with the requirements of separation and or virtually, because they need to start moving forward those items that will go to Community Development Board in May or June when we get going again. So they have to start processing this.
They have to fill the pipeline.
They do. And so this allows them to meet to get the pipeline going again.
Okay, and Ms. Call, we had a comment on this item.
Is she speaking?
She is. She's just going
Can't hear
down
her.
to
Oh.
the podium.
All right, a comment was submitted by Maura Hedrich. Thank you for taking a proactive approach in forming a COVID-19 task force. As a city, we are facing an uphill challenge and need representatives from every corner of Clearwater to have it be successful. How will the members be chosen to be on the task force? Will all council members be able to nominate or recommend people? How will diversity be ensured by income, age, ethnicity, culture, residency, etc.? Will there be a final vote to accept the members by council? This is a very important position, and every corner of Clearwater must be equally represented. Thank you.
I think this is really more the recovery task force.
I think so.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're going to discuss that. Are there any questions on item 10.2 from the council?
Move approval of agenda item 10.2.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 10.2? Seeing none, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Aiken?
Resolution number 20-16, confirmation of COVID-19 emergency proclamations, April 16, 2020. A resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, confirming declarations of a state of emergency and continuing emergency measures, providing an effective date.
I move that we
Have a
adopt
motion?
resolution 20 dash, I move that we adopt resolution 20-16.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. All right, I would ask that we suspend our council rules to have two council discussion items this evening. One is concerning the Recovery Task Force, and the other is I would like to discuss extending the indications of interest for the properties in downtown. But I think Councilmember Beckman wanted to talk about the task force, so that would be the first, if I have a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Beckman?
Yeah, there was a discussion item at our work session that I had wanted to bring up, and it was just asking for some clarification on the task force that you mentioned at our first council meeting together. And it was kind of towards the end of the meeting, and I just was a little caught off guard and didn't know the details and was curious about the details. And because we can't talk outside of the meeting, I had wanted to have a conversation at our work session. And part of that is because since our previous meeting and you mentioned the task force I've been curious about what it is and who initiated it. Is it joint? Is it the city just participating as a member? How are the members chosen? And what is their purpose and things like that. And then through the weekend, there was communication to me by residents affiliated with the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition who had similar concerns. And so I'm just seeking an understanding. And I will say that it's important to me and I think to most residents in Clearwater that when we engage with boards or organizations or we're working in conjunction with other entities within the city, that we strive for diversity and representation and interest, and that's diversity on a whole bunch of levels. But I think it behooves us to be kind of intentional in being aware of that and helping to facilitate it. I mean, it's not a given all the time, but it should be a concern that these organizations we interact with reflect the diversity in our community. And so that's kind of what I wanted to have a discussion about on Monday, and with technical difficulties and things, it didn't happen.
Actually, it's my fault, and I apologize for that. So let me give you a little bit of clarity on the genesis of this. Obviously, we have all been thinking about COVID-19 and how it is affecting our businesses, our employees, our neighborhoods, our government entities. And one of the things that concern me is we've been talking about treating patients and keeping people safe, which is obviously the priority. But I also believe as a government official that it is our responsibility to look down the road and plan for when we come out of this crisis. And so I talked to several people at Amplify, which for those who are going to eventually watch this, it is the Chamber of Commerce and their new name. And I wanted to inform the council that I had talked to them because I believed that they were the right entity to lead a business recovery task force. Because they really are, as they say, the voice of business. And we want our businesses to survive so that they can employ people, ultimately pay taxes within the city, and keep our economic system going. I did want the support of the city council in this, but this is not a city task force. I have asked for task forces in the past. Councilmember Albrecht, for instance, was on the business task force that we originated in 2011. Normally, when we have those type of task force, similar to when we have the Charter Review Committee, it is led by city staff. Everything is noticed. And it generally takes somewhere between 6 and 9 months to come back with recommendations. We don't have that type of time. I believe that the governor is probably going to start opening up the state within the next 2 to 4 weeks. So I wanted the process to be inclusive, and Councilmember Beckman, I always want that. We want it to be diverse and inclusive, but it was also trying to hit all of the bases of the different businesses. So we have the CEO of Morton Plan Hospital. We have the general manager of Countryside Mall. We have owners of restaurant chains. We have hotel general managers. We have members of not-for-profits. So it's a fairly diverse group. And I did want to have at least a single city staff member as a liaison. Denise Sanderson, as I talked to the city manager, seemed like the logical choice, being from economic development, and the fact that she is very acquainted with the Amplify Clearwater staff. And I have talked to several of the CNC members, the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, for those who don't know what that means. And I said I would be happy to work with them on a task force for neighborhoods. But I think COVID-19 has hurt businesses. And if it's hurt neighborhoods, it's hurt neighborhoods through the residents that live in the neighborhoods, because they are either separated for their job or lost their job, or their business is struggling to exist, especially if it's not essential. So that is how this came about.
Okay,
But
so
it really
if I
is
could
an
just be
Amplify Clearwater task force with cooperation with the city.
Okay.
And all of those recommendations that are finally chosen will be brought back to the city for the city's comment, and if they're going to be a part of implementation. Does that give some better clarity?
It does. So when you say the phrase "I did want to add," are you saying that you kind of chose those leaders in those particular fields, or was it with amplified leadership in conjunction with them, or?
Yes, there was a committee of 4 people that talked about, for instance, the general manager of the Sand Pearl, the owner of Island Way Grill and Rumba, 2 large restaurants, the partial owner and manager of Frenchies and Clear Sky. Obviously, we have one big mall that's closed, or rather than the open air of Clearwater Mall, but a single general manager. You know, we have one CEO of our hospital. These were all executive type people all from different industries.
Okay, I mean, that offers clarity. Again, I'm you know, I'm concerned about, do you have representation of people who have, 5 or fewer employees, or who have, small little hair salons, or the florist, or, just smaller businesses and minority-owned businesses, frankly. So that was just part of my concern, and one of the concerns that the CNC members brought up, and I think it was probably articulated to you if you had conversations, is if the task force is going to come before the council to ask for some actions that the city can take to offer some sort of financial relief to get them back up on their feet, which I'm, fully supportive, and intend to, do whatever we can to help our businesses, because you're right, ultimately they provide jobs. But if we're going to be, offering some financial incentives, like you said earlier, that money comes from somewhere, and somewhere else doesn't get that money, or, at what is the, what pot does it come out of, and is it a resident, is it something that residents will see, if we're not going to, put as much money in our rec centers or our parks, or those kinds of things. So
Those are great questions, and that's why you're getting paid the big bucks now, to kind of decide how we spread resources. But I think, let me address a couple of the things you said. People from salons and maybe, nail salons. We could not have too many members. Otherwise, the task force becomes cumbersome, and we need something that's nimble. Our goal is to have these potential recommendations back to the city by the 29th of this month. So we're trying to move extraordinarily fast. The chamber has done 2 listening tours where they invited people to do Zoom meetings. The one that I was on had over 40 people. They were all making recommendations. And then also all of the people on the committee were tasked with going out and talking to other constituents in business within the city to get recommendations.
Yeah.
So I think we're trying to be as inclusive as we possibly can, but also staying nimble. And ultimately, there may not be any recommendations that the city is interested in participating in. Many of the recommendations that are going to come back are not necessarily financial in nature.
Right.
So there's been some questions about relaxing, which I know will probably send some people into orbit, but allowing some back open signs and things that may not meet our normal sign code, but for 30 to 60 or 90 days, we allow it, to give people some more visibility as we go back to some level of normalcy, whatever that looks like.
Absolutely. I spoke with a business owner, Manos on Drew Street, just this week, and he said he has actually some of my recycled campaign signs are covered with, "Hey, we're open, takeout only at Manos," and just by having those signs out there, he said it's helped his business quite a bit, as he's open just with takeout service. So those, I asked him, what can the city do for you as a small business owner here? What do you need? And that was one of his comments, was about signage. And another comment, just to put it out there, is the florist on Drew Street. I think it's Hessel's. they are deemed a non-essential, and but she's a delivery service, and so she said, she's been getting so many calls from people from out of state to have flowers delivered to loved ones that they can't connect with, and she can't even deliver flowers to the door. But McDonald's can have a delivery, or you can have Uber Eats and things like that. So yeah, I'm all for listening to our real small businesses and working with them, and helping them be successful.
Now, I
It
was on a
doesn't have to
conference
involve
call.
money.
No, I understand. I was on a conference call this morning with the county commission, and there were a lot of questions about florists.
Yeah.
And that is part of the governor's
Right.
resolution. It's not something that, is coming from the city of Clearwater or even the county.
Right.
That's something that we're abiding by the state order. So, and I know that's very difficult for people, and I hope that, we're going to resolve some of those issues in the very near future through social distancing rather than just being closed. Because eventually we're going to do so much damage to the economy. We're riding on a razor blade. On one side is damaging the economy, on the other side is the safety of our citizens. And we don't have a playbook. Are there other comments from the other council members?
No.
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 Was that part of my 3 minutes, or was that the suspension of the rules?
No, you can keep going. I just wondered if someone else wanted a bite of the apple.
Oh.
Do you have other comments, Councilmember
I
Beckman?
I just had a couple. I just wanted to thank everybody in Clearwater for following the safer at home order. I think it's working, and I appreciate everyone who's staying at home. I would offer that in your downtime at home, you check your voter registration status and sign up for vote by mail. If you'd like, you can go to votepinellas.com and check your status. And if you're a registered voter, you can sign up to vote by mail there. Let's see. I wanted to thank all of our city staff for doing so well in these trying times, especially the communication department. And I would urge people to go to myclearwater.com and check out all sorts of resources related to COVID-19 or specific. There's a button on the top that says COVID-19 information, and you can find out about food pantries, about how to volunteer, about what's going on with our beaches or our restaurants, our parks, all sorts of links to business resources. And I think that's a fantastic site, and I would urge residents to check it out. So if you go to myclearwater.com and then click on that COVID-19 button, there are many, many resources that I think residents will find helpful, both in how to help and contribute, make a difference, and if you need help. Where you can find resources.
That's
done.
perfect.
That's
I
all.
was
Thank you.
actually asking if you had any more questions about the task force.
Oh,
that was
sorry.
definitely not a part of your 3 minutes.
Okay.
We do have one other item that I wanted to raise, which was we have a request for indications of interest on the properties in downtown. The City Hall site, the Clearwater Aquarium site, and the Harbor View site. Those are due. Mr. Delk, do you want to address this as well? Those are due, my understanding is the middle of May. I think with the consideration of what's been going on with COVID-19, I would like to extend those periods. Because I think we're going to get more interest if we extend the time.
Yes, Mayor.
Can't hear Michael. Can't hear Michael. Del.
They can't hear you. They can't hear you. Just a second, folks. Just a second, folks.
Second.
That looped. That looped.
And loop, and loop, and loop, and loop. We gotta have some fun. We gotta have some fun sometimes, folks. Right? Huh?
Am I?
Yeah.
Can I be heard? Can I be heard?
Can you all hear Michael? Can you all hear Michael now?
Yeah, I get to hear you twice. Yeah, I get to hear you twice, Frank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every
Yeah. Yeah. No,
every comment is being repeated. Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
I agree with extending. I agree with extending REFI. The schedule calls for a round table next week, and I've actually got a call in for our consultant in New York. We may continue to have that just as an opportunity for people who may have, been anticipating it. But I'm going to talk to them about how we can, kind of communicate out there to the world that these deadlines are going to extend them. So I'll come back to you and I'll get a revised schedule for that and how we're going to manage that. Originally, that roundtable was going to include the opportunity for visits to the site. So, like I said, we're having to adjust as a lot of things. So let me bring that back. I completely agree that we right now is not a time that we've got the time to give folks the opportunity to react. We've generated some interest with the request for expressions of interest, and we don't want to have anyone who might be interested but otherwise constrained by the pandemic to not be able to participate. So I'll come back with a revised schedule, and
right. I just think we're doing. I just think we're doing a disservice to ourselves.
I agree.
Okay. Any council member comments? Any council member comments on that?
I agree with the.
No.
Actually, Pam wants to weigh in.
And this is information for information and anyone.
I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. Can anyone hear Pam? Can anyone hear Pam?
No. No.
No.
No.
No.
No. No. No. Oh, I can. So one of the issues that Pam and I discussed was the fact that if you delay, would most likely delay a referendum on those properties to beyond November of this year. And I don't think we're going to have a viable plan by November anyway.
Mayor, I don't disagree.
Fair enough. So I think I heard everyone's in agreement. Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Feld. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Feld. Councilmember closing comments. Councilmember Hamilton.
I'm done. No, I have none.
Councilmember Albritton.
Councilmember Albritton. It's going to be repeated. I'm scared to say anything. It's going to be repeated twice. So I'm good.
Okay. Councilmember Bunker.
Yes, I wanted to take a moment to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council members for, however tentatively it might be, and reasonably so, for giving me a shot on the Downtown Development Board. I think the first achievement It's just to show that we can sit in the room comfortably together. L. Ron Hubbard, in the Creed of Scientologists, said that all men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter a right upon the opinions of others. Those are very noble words. He also, however, wrote that anyone who criticizes Scientology is a criminal. You just have to look up their crimes, and if you can't find them, create them or manufacture them, he said. And we're seeing Freedom Magazine, Scientology's publication, seemingly preparing an issue about me, or at least an article in the magazine. I just want to assure everyone, unlike the comments that you heard, I'm not Hitler. I'm actually kind of adorable. But also,
I'm not going to vote on that, Councilmember Bunker.
Well, give me time. And Tracy McManus and the Tampa Bay Times, they're not the reason people aren't coming downtown. So I'm glad we're having a chance to start discussing the topic, and I hope we have a very constructive relationship and success along the way. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I will try to be brief. We are still encouraging everybody to take the census. Your response is secure, it's confidential, protected by law. This short survey is a civic duty laid out in the Constitution, and it's also vitally important to Clearwater's future. Clearwater Beach, along with the other Pinellas County beaches, will remain closed until further notice. Public pools, including condo pools, apartment pools, hotel pools, and more, will also remain closed until further notice. Pinellas County Protection warns about COVID-19. There are a lot of scams going on out there. So we just ask all of our residents to be careful. Thieves are trying to steal stimulus checks, personal financial information. Scammers are sending fake emails that appear to be from the IRS. The IRS will never send you emails, ever. Residents are advised to guard against financial information and sending money to receive money. There are stimulus check scams. And with that, I'll go on to the really important stuff, which is Feeding Tampa Bay has teamed up with the city of Clearwater, and we are serving meals to kids that are out of school right now at Ross Norton Recreation Center, Monday through Friday, from 12:30 to 1:30, and in the North Greenwood Rec Center from 2:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. And the Salvation Army is also having food distribution 3:30 to 5 every Wednesday at their social services complex at the corner of Highland and Druid. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, I hope people are patient out there and careful. And I think we're going to have a new appreciation of a lot of things when this is over. God bless you all. We are adjourned. Okay. Flipping nightmare.